Hey guys, in this crypto video, I want to go over what you guys are thinking about this year. And what do I mean by that? I looked up statistics, I was looking up surveys to get a general idea and appeal of what retail institutions and corporations think about crypto for 2026. I'm going to make this a multiple video series, probably two or three, because I want to dig in a little bit and not make these 20 minutes long. And I'm asking questions like, do we, as a general investor pool, do we believe the 4 year cycle for crypto is still real? Do we think it's changed? Do we think it never was? What do we think overall the Bitcoin all time high is going to be of 2026? Right. And this is taking in account many different people and corporations' opinions. So, with the research, I want to share the numbers. Plus, I'll give my personal take, which will not agree with everybody's, obviously. And I'll be curious about all of your guys's down in the comments down below to see if we can get an idea of what is really up for the crypto market this year. Because we are in an emotional and speculative market. No one knows what the hell's going to happen, but we all have a thought. So let's share today the combined averages of thoughts for what we're in store for this year. As always, there's no financial advice ever given here. Invest at your own risk. Crypto is pretty risky. You can lose all of your money. So only put in what you can afford to lose, do your own research, all that wonderful stuff. Take ownership in the wins and the gains that you're going to get. And if you have been here several times or you get something useful or entertaining from this video, please do press the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. But regardless, let's move forward and let's see what people think about the market. So first and foremost, 4 year cycle. I think essentially everyone in crypto has a strong opinion on this one way or another at this point. And just real quick, the 4 year cycle, bear market to bull market, everything kind of circles and orbits around the Bitcoin halving. X amount of period, roughly 12 to 18 months after the Bitcoin halving, we get alt season and then a we'll call it multi-year or half to 2 year bear market, and then we start over. I think it's pretty well accepted that the strict 4 year isn't there anymore. But let's elaborate into like the extended 4 year cycle, like a lot of people I know still think. So, statistically speaking, retail and institutional investors, about 65% think the classic cycle is broken and gone. Done. Right. And the main reasons that are attributed to this all appear to be macro factors, was a large one. Right. Countries came in, really changed things up by things like the Bitcoin ETFs, Bitcoin reserves. We had the Bitcoin all time high we first got before the halving even happened. Right. And now there's a lot of regulation influence that is kind of getting us to decouple from the Bitcoin halving being the center part of the 4 year cycle. Now, there's a smaller retail group, roughly 30 to 40%, that still believes that the 4 year cycle is fully alive. And they point to the historical post halving patterns and say, do you know what? As long as technically we get our alt season in the next, I think it's like 6 weeks, 4 year cycle, they can still hold to thinking that's true. Now, you probably already got my opinion based off of the context of all this. I think the 4 year cycle is broken. I think it was real the first two cycles. I think last year it was probably just, we'll say it looked like it was still there. But argument aside, I don't think Bitcoin halving is going to start or have any major influence of any future cycles. I think that Bitcoin, probably the top three or four after that, Ethereum, we can safely say, I think they might end up going with stock and business cycles. And I think we're going to end up having like the top, we'll call it top 10, are going to have their own cycle, probably very close to stocks because they're going to be the crypto that has ETFs and Wall Street jumps in with it. And I think it's going to have a split cycle with crypto. We're going to have little individual rallies of the smaller market cap coins and then the explosive with stock cycle of the higher ones. We're always going to have a little gambling because crypto, well, let's be honest, is what got a lot of us into crypto in the first place, is the concept that we can make a lot really quickly and that it's new. What are your thoughts about the 4 year cycle? Next question, Bitcoin. Is it a risk asset or is it now a macro hedge? right? So what I mean by this is institutional and the retail perspective. Is Bitcoin still considered a risky investment? Or is it considered safe that if you buy Bitcoin at really any given time, now, 3 months ago, or 3 months from now, if you wait a year or 5 years, is it still going to be higher than it is now? Now, gold is certainly in that category. A lot of stocks, you just name the big ones, Tesla, Google, etc. They are in that category as a macro hedge. Oh, we got a little visitor. That's the Colonel, Colonel Mustard. Maybe we'll get his opinion on some of this a little bit too. Hi. Institutions, they increasingly see Bitcoin as a macro hedge, clearly. Otherwise, they wouldn't be buying it as reserves. I was surprised this was even a common question, which, by the way, I got these questions from common questions that have been asked on social media and Reddit specifically. Retail still kind of treats it as risk on. You can tell because retail sells Bitcoin, even all crypto, but Bitcoin as well, when there's big bad things that happen or perceived as bad things, right? Tariffs, sell Bitcoin. But then when it goes down, corporations, institutions, and government agencies are the ones that were buying it. So I guess my opinion on this matter, I'll say the Colonel also agrees with this, is it's a hedge. Retail in general still sees it, at least somewhat, as a risk asset, or there's just a lot of retail that's using it for swing trading and leverage trading. And that would also explain it. But it's a hedge at this point. It's right there with gold. Yes, it's going to have a little bit more volatility, but I would say it's a macro hedge for sure at this point. What's your thoughts? Here's a fun one. What do you think the all-time high is going to be by the time we finish 2026? The ranges, this varies a lot, right? Essentially anywhere between 119,000 to 250K. That's what most people think. The median consensus isn't too much different. It's 150K to 200K. You look at the community on X. Okay, that's where we get a lot more of the, we'll call it the bullish, of 100K to 300K plus. Still hearing $500,000 Bitcoin in 2026. I'm not buying it, not at all. But these numbers, by the way, they came from Grayscale and Galaxy and JP Morgan, as well as social media. Now, my opinion and take on this one, I think we're going to get a new all-time high in 2026, and I think it's going to be roughly 150. When I say roughly, call it 140 to 160. I don't think it's going to blow past 150. The only way I feel like it's going to do that is if there's a massive supply shock and or a couple major companies and countries that have not expressed any interest in Bitcoin reserves announce interest in Bitcoin reserves, or Michael Saylor does a balls out move and then buys a shit ton of Bitcoin on the open exchange versus over the counter, what he has been doing. That would be manipulation at its finest. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to say 140K to 160K. Tell me your guys's. Now the emotional one. Will there be an altcoin season in 2026? All right. Roughly 70 to 80% of the retail community still expects some kind of alt season. And most expect it apparently to be selective, meaning the high utility tokens, like Ethereum, Solana, Sui, rather than everything, like all the micro cap and shit coins that don't do anything or don't do anything yet, or just build hype. The main expectancy is that there will be an altcoin season, but it's going to be the ones that are heavily used only. And a lot of this can be kind of supported because institutions, which is where all the real money is at, they're only really going to back projects with real adoption and fundamentals. All right. So my opinion on this one is I'm kind of in that majority, a little bit different, but I do think we're going to have an alt season. I think it's going to be a little larger than what that alluded to in terms of the amount of crypto. I think it's going to be the top 200 or 300. But again, those are the ones that are more popular, are more likely to have utility, are more likely to be on larger exchanges. So that way when institution comes in and buys them, so get little green candles that gets us all excited, we'll have some Coinbase and Binance, more retail's going to come in and get those. So I do think we're going to have one. I think it's going to happen before, I think it's going to happen quarter 1. I think it's going to be done at the end of quarter 1, give or take a couple of weeks maybe. But that's my thoughts on altcoin season this year. What are yours? This is the one I expect to have the most varied responses. I'm curious. So those are the big questions for today. I'm going to do other videos with a couple other big questions that came out because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of curiosities and speculation in the market. So if there's any questions that you want me to look at to see what does the general market think, put them down below. I'll do the research, I'll read statistics, and I'll present it to you guys. I think that's all I got to say. Thank you guys for being here. Peace.